to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 265 of the Super Speedway podcast, recorded Monday, February 6th, 2023. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. Later on tonight, we will have a special guest on the podcast as well, one of our participants in the Fantasy League. We'll get to that in a little while. We've got some race discussion and everything. First, though, James, we had the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum this week. We get to talk racing. The season's just about getting ready to get started. But how's it going, man?
Good, man. I was all in on racing yesterday. My family was upset with me again. Life was back to normal. When the cars are on the track and on my TV and everybody dislikes me in my house, things are normal for me, and it felt good.
Tell the story. Good. What did your daughter say?
She said, I can't even tell it without laughing because her face was so sunken and sad. I said to my oldest daughter, Ellie, we get to watch NASCAR today. And she goes, no, why? So yeah, Eric, you have, I don't know if it's the fortune or misfortune of being surrounded by boys who, like this kind of stuff a little bit more, might pay attention to it. My daughters, I have hope for my youngest, but boy, when NASCAR's on, they just don't want nothing to do with me, which, for the most part, they don't want anything to do with me anyway. But especially during racing season, they really don't like me. They tolerate football, but they do not like when racing's on. So
I've rubbed it into my wife a few times the last couple weeks that it was almost NASCAR season, and she's super excited.
Oh yeah. You got to lay the groundwork with the wives, because if you don't, it comes back on you.
Yeah.
pretty fiercely. So I do the, hey, Daytona's in a few weeks,
right.
And then there's the Clash. You got to remember that's coming too. And yeah. So
see, I do it the other way. I just try to get her annoyed with me because it's not usually too difficult.
Well, yeah.
It's funny because like the first year we did this podcast, I could kind of do the whole it's kind of like work, okay? This is. It's a job now, but then as the lack of money has come in from this job and the amount of money has gone out for this job, she's less tolerant of it now than she used to be.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, when we started recording a couple of weeks ago and I said, hey, I'm doing a podcast and I'm doing a podcast next week, and then you and I were scheduling this one because we had the interview at the end of the episode, and I said, hey, I have a hard start time at 7:30. It's like, oh boy, yep. Here we go. Usually we get into the groove, but it's the ripping the Band-Aid off of the off season that is the hardest part. But once we're in the groove, we're fine. We're almost there.
Right?
Yep.
Well, let's get into it, James. We had a race last night as we're recording this podcast, the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. We will start our new format of topics to discuss with our first topic. Martin Truex Jr. wins the 2023 Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. Truex went winless last year and starts the season out with a win. And I'll tell you what, the last guy who won this race won the championship that year. What do you think of Martin Truex Jr.'s performance last night?
Yeah, man. Well, he survived and kept it out front and got the win. So I think that's the best. That might be the best way to save it. But in all honesty, he was. There was a couple of cars during the heats that you could see were a little bit different. I thought Byron was a little bit different. Truex was obviously a little bit different. And heck, even the RCR, both the RCR cars, we'll touch on that. But you could tell Martin had something going early in the evening, and just pretty much kept it clean and survived, man, because that was a show.
Yeah,
sure.
Yes, it was. I mean, I think Truex was strong all weekend. Practiced well. Pulled the Martin Truex wine session after qualifying, where he wasn't happy with the way they do the qualifying order or something. I know he was bitching because the track was cold and he had a bad qualifying run, but managed to work his way up through the field in his heat race. And I mean, it was the Martin Truex Jr. show. It just took him a little while to get there, but once he got there, it was over with. And I'll tell you, people could move through the field. Truex moved through the field a little bit, and I mean, we saw Kyle Busch go to the back and come right back up to, run second before falling to third intentionally. So,
well, that in the heat race that they were both in, Truex and Kyle, there was some legit racing going on. And I don't know how many drivers in the field are as talented as Kyle Busch because he showed it with clean crossovers, and Truex was going at him. It was awesome. I was like, man, this is really good racing. And that was probably the peak of the festivities of the evening, because I thought I was just stunned that we were actually seeing some real racing there in those heat races. And it looked really good. I'm like, man, but this is setting up for quite an evening. And then we got a little bit sloppy in the second half of the race. But nonetheless, I think, Eric, I don't know what this does for Martin Truex Jr. for the rest of the year. But what I do know is that I saw some things that I really liked that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think maybe we have some takeaways from this race. I wasn't sure about that, but what do you think?
Well, I think, so I listened to Denny Hamlin's podcast today. First episode of Actions Detrimental, hit the iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever the hell it's called now. And Hamlin mentioned that last year they were terrible here. The Toyotas were terrible here, and the Toyotas then went to Martinsville and were terrible at Martinsville. And then the second half of the season, they figured out Martinsville, and then they come back here and they're good here. And he said it's surprising that there's carryover between these two tracks. But personally, I don't think it's that surprising. This really is a lot of braking, half-sized version of Martinsville for the most part. So I think this tells you that, Truex is going to be dangerous at those flat tracks. He's going to be dangerous at Martinsville. He's going to be dangerous at Loudon, you would assume. He's going to be dangerous at Richmond, which are places that Truex is good at anyway. And I think this very, very much bodes well for what the rest of his season is going to look like. And I think this race tells us more about the upcoming season. I mean, don't get me wrong, James, it's a quarter-mile racetrack, and it's not going to translate to most weekends in the Cup Series. But I think it tells us more about what we can expect the rest of the season this year than it did last year by any means, because last year nobody knew what the hell to take from this race. Yeah, and I think we saw a totally different experience last night than what we saw a year ago, and you and I kind of tweeted at each other a little bit about this. Basically, they've got cars and parts now, so the drivers don't care, at this point. Yep. Maybe that was a detrimental thing. Maybe we should have put some restrictions on them at the end of the day. But thank God they couldn't do the Hail Melon. I mean,
exactly. And I think, but to your point, I think Martin signed a little bit late last year, and I think it's because he didn't want to, he had a good season even though he didn't have a win.
Right.
But I think he was really discouraged by how he was running last year, and he's better than that. And now we're going to see, I think we're going to see a guy who's going to contend. Obviously he's going to get a playoff spot, I think. And he's going to win some races now. I don't see how he wouldn't.
He's Martin Truex Jr. in a JGR car is not going winless 2 years in a row.
No, it's too long. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I think this was a nice stepping stone for him to have a good season. I know he's going through some stuff, and he's just been kind of battling through. The last year was probably really long, really rough, not much fun, and this is just, a win can do a lot. And I know there's people out there who don't believe in momentum or things like that, but we get that monkey off your back, you get a little looser, and the whole team's feeling themselves just a little bit more. That's not going to hurt your performance by any means. That's only going to make you a little bit faster. So I think you're right. I think he's going to run well at the tracks that we know he can run well at again, and steal a couple of wins here.
That is a terrific transition, because our next topic is the RCR cars finished second and third. Kyle Busch makes it up to second, lets Austin Dillon go at the end. Said Dillon had a little bit better chance at getting Truex. Tried to get the win for RCR in the Chevrolets. But that brings me to Kyle Busch. We mentioned already, went to the back with a spin after getting taken out by Joey Logano. and comes back through the field. One of the few cars that could actually do it. Came back through the field to run second. And I think Kyle Busch, with a positive attitude. Listen, this guy didn't forget how to drive last year. He's still in the last 2 years. He knows how to drive a race car. He's a great race car driver, still one of the best in the business. With a good attitude, he's going to be dangerous this year. And right now, he has a good attitude. And maybe it's the hemp car. Maybe it's
well, he keeps hinting at that,
right? Maybe it's the new scenery, which is more likely the case. But Kyle's going to be dangerous, and he proved it last night. And I think he's going to make Austin Dillon better. And I think he already did that. Although Austin Dillon ran good in this race last year too. So.
Yeah, he did. And, I wanted to, it's amazing how fast the world can take you, because we'll probably hit on this a little bit more, Eric. I wanted to think that, he's coming in here. He's going to have a fresh start. He's going to run fast. I still think he's going to run fast, but then, his personal life, he's got issues again with what's going on in Mexico. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. So I still don't know what to do with him. I just, you know what I mean? Like, is he different, or is he just the same? He's different. You know what I mean? Like,
he's different. Look at how much fun he was at the Chili Bowl, or the leading up to the Chili Bowl this year. He's doing the stuff with Brexton. Brexton's moving up through the ranks. I think Kyle's a different Kyle. I think there was a lot of stress and pressure over there at JGR. And I mean, we don't have it in the notes, but considering Christopher Bell's comments this week about not being allowed to run dirt racing, essentially. I think Kyle might have gotten out of that organization just in time before the fun stops over there. So
that's probably true. And he hit Truex with a legendary goose on the medal stand. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
It was Tony Stewart-esque. He got up under there and goosed him real good. and it looked like, okay, maybe he is going to have a little bit of more fun this year. Yeah. So it was good to see him. It was good to see him. As far as the car and the driver on the track, like that was Kyle Busch. That was not Kyle Busch struggling. That was just Kyle Busch, and that's what you want as a NASCAR fan. You want that guy. You want that guy mucking it up, and he was mucking it up all night long.
The only thing that scares me with Kyle, and this is brought up on the teardown by, I can't remember if it was Jordan or Jeff. But the thing that worries me is that Kyle's always had that guy. He's always had like Joe Gibbs there in the background trying to calm him down. Well, now he's got RC on the mic.
Yeah, that's right.
Telling him to wreck people. Because Childress has been known to come on the radio and tell you to wreck somebody.
Yeah, man.
That could get Kyle in some trouble.
Yeah. Well, now he's got the guy who took off his watch on his side. So Kyle knows what Richard ain't afraid to throw down.
Right. Yeah.
He knows
he's got his back. You know that.
Yep.
How about Ryan Preece? Next topic. Ryan Preece runs before a fuel pump issue. He was gonna win this race. I was soured on Ryan Preece, and I think I forgot the talent that this guy has when he's in good equipment. And he showed that might have been the right choice to put him in that car instead of Cole Custer.
My tweet that I didn't send. This might be a new segment for me, Eric. The tweets that James didn't send. Who had a worse night than Cole Custer?
Right.
Because Ryan Preece came in, dude. He drove through the field.
Man.
Took the lead. Looked like he was other than I think Truex probably would have still got him eventually. But my goodness, that was a great drive from Ryan Preece. Tony Stewart looked like a kingmaker there.
Yeah.
By putting him in that car. That was an awesome drive for Ryan Preece. I hope, man, it would be fun to see him be that guy. I don't know if he's gonna be a playoff contender. I don't know what he's gonna be just yet, but if he really is one of those guys who's gonna make a run at the playoffs, that's gonna mix it up a little bit more for us. We're not doing any preseason picks or anything tonight, but I don't know what to do with him now, because I was thoroughly impressed with what Ryan Preece was doing last night.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to say, let's build a track that Ryan Preece is going to be good at, you'd probably build a track like this. I mean, you'd build a track like this, or you build a track like Martinsville, somewhere that the modifieds race on. But I mean,
Bowman Gray.
Yeah,
yeah.
he made a fool out of me last night because I really thought that he was going to do nothing in that car. And again, it's only one race and it's not even a points race, but people knew Ryan Preece was there last night. That's for sure.
Yep, and I bet just to reiterate, I think Old Smoke was up there in the broadcast booth with a little bit of a grin on his face when Ryan Preece took the lead, going, "I told you so." Oh yeah, because that was his push. He wanted him in that car. So yeah, I kind of felt bad for Cole Custer though, as Ryan Preece marched through the field in that 41 car, because I guarantee you Cole Custer wasn't ever going to do. Sorry. No. I know Cole Custer's a good driver. He is. No, but man,
you're not wrong.
Ryan Preece might be special. He might be special.
He could be.
And this is his opportunity. He said last night, or it was one of the quotes I had heard last night, that he's been waiting for this opportunity his whole life. This is what he's worked his whole life for. And I did not know, Eric, that he had mortgaged his house to get a couple of those Xfinity starts that he got wins in, over the last couple of years. That was the first I had heard that he bet on himself big time, and love to see it pay off. I hope it works out for him.
Yeah, I agree. Wiz Khalifa performs at halftime in quotes of a NASCAR race. James, what'd you think of Wiz Khalifa? Okay, let me ask you this way. During the Wiz Khalifa performance, were you Jeff Gluck or were you Bob Pockrass? That's what I want to know.
I love that you asked it that way. I was Jeff Gluck. And I've never went out of my way to listen to Wiz Khalifa, but I was bopping back and forth because I know those songs. Yeah. I mean, I've heard them before. That was a lot of fun. I don't care what anybody. NASCAR Twitter can, shove off for that one. James, I had fun. That was fun.
I'm going to side with you on this topic because I'm not going to side with you on the next one. But I'm going to side with you on this one. I thought the performance was incredible. So I watched the race delayed. So I actually could have skipped through the entire performance had I wanted to, and I intentionally watched the whole performance, partially because I wanted to discuss it tonight, but partially because I was entertained by it. It was good.
You don't have that. Yeah.
Even if I wasn't entertained by it, do you know what the greatest thing about that performance was all the shots of the young people in the crowd that were dancing along and enjoying that performance.
If I was somebody who created reality TV shows, watching white people dance to Wiz Khalifa, I was entertained by that.
Yeah,
because that was a lot of fun. But I really, NASCAR. How many country? I love, Eric. I'll say it. I love country music. It's my favorite genre. I can't do another country show at a NASCAR race.
No,
you can't. We've done it all. We've done
even
them all,
classic rock. I mean, how many times can we get a 50-year-old rock band to perform at a NASCAR race? This is good for the sport.
And I think too, if Wiz Khalifa performed at the Super Bowl, people would lose their minds. They'd love it.
Yeah.
And we got him for 3 songs, right? So we'll take it. We'll take it. That's pretty fun. Now he wasn't super enthused to be there, I don't think.
Yeah.
Shannon Spake did her best interviewing him, and then when he was done, he was out. But I mean, god dang, dude, he came in, did his job, did it really well. Like, that music sounded good on the TV.
I mean,
which you don't always get on the TV broadcast. It was great.
Does Justin Timberlake sit there and watch the Super Bowl after he performs at halftime? Probably not. He probably jets out of there. Maybe Timberlake. Maybe he's a bad example.
He might, yeah. But Katy Perry sure is.
Yeah, Katy Perry's not sitting around.
No. Who else was in there a couple of years ago?
So that's I wanted to ask you that, James. So the Super Bowl every year, people tune in for just for the halftime show.
That's right.
Is this something that, I mean, obviously this is something with this event that we now have. Is this something we could incorporate into more NASCAR races? I don't think you're going to have 36 halftime shows throughout the year. But is this something that you can take a few of these races and instead of doing a pre-race concert that nobody sees, find some way to do something during the race to draw that interest?
If you had a race that was
scheduled... Could you see a halftime performance at the Daytona 500?
No, that's too long. That's too long of a day. I'd like to say that could work.
Well, you could do it if you change the race to 300 miles.
Yeah, but that's the problem. You can't change the Daytona 500, right? It's got to be 500 miles. I don't know if you had a race that was scheduled for 2 hours, which this race was, but it ended up going like 12. But you could have something where you could incorporate a halftime show, Like if you went out to California and you ran a 300-mile race or 300-lap race on the short track,
right.
you could incorporate halftime shows into a 2-hour time frame. But if you're asking fans to sit there and watch a race for 4 hours plus a halftime show, that's gonna be a tough sell for anybody.
Yeah,
that's hard. That's the hard part for me.
I wish there was a way we could figure out to do it. I think the experiment with this race is great. I think that there are opportunities like this throughout the season. They may not present exactly like this, but that will create. I mean, this is I haven't been there to the Coliseum for this race, but everything I hear, the atmosphere is completely different, and there are amenities that we can do at your local, your Michigan International Speedway or wherever, the typical NASCAR racetrack that can create a better fan experience that will bring more people in than just the race.
Yes.
You know?
Yep. I wonder how many people tuned in just to see that halftime show and then bailed out.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Or they're going to YouTube and watching the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's probably the next thing that's happening, which, at the end of the day, they see Wiz Khalifa, they see that logo, that NASCAR logo, and hey, that's something, right? You're getting, to use a digital marketing term, which I spend most of my time in, you get your impressions, right? So are they positive impressions? I hope so. I think they are. And I think it's a good thing, obviously, at the end of the day. So it was good, man. I had fun. My wife even came into the room and was like, "Hey, I know that one." I'm like, yeah.
My wife asked me, "What are you listening to? Who is that?" I said, "It's Wiz Khalifa. He's performing at halftime of the NASCAR race." And it was a couple of minutes. She says, "Halftime?" And it's like, yes, there's a halftime for the Clash now.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up Jeff and Bob, because that tweet from, it was Jenna Fryer, right?
I think so.
I retweeted it, but that tweet of those two during that halftime show is probably I don't know if there will be a funnier moment in this season than that right there.
It was pretty beautiful.
Oh my God. I was laughing out loud, because that is totally Jeff and that is also totally Bob.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's get ready to disagree. Next topic. This year's Clash has 16 cautions versus last year's 5. It took us a significant amount of time to complete, 15 laps at the beginning of the second stage. What are your thoughts on the race as a whole, the actual racing product that we saw this year at the Clash, James?
It wasn't great. Not this year. I watched every single lap, and after halftime, it got painful. I will be honest. The running 5 laps over 30 minutes got pretty hard to handle. That late in the evening, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll disagree with that part of it. I also wasn't a huge fan of the ram and slam that was going on. That's probably where we're going to disagree. It was a little bit. It was a little much. I was gonna say, don't you think? But I don't know. I'm not sure what you think.
I don't think so. I think let's put it this way. Did it get frustrating that, oh my God, we're under caution again? Yes. And I think it was more frustrating because it just took them so long to get started again. I mean, every restart, you were guaranteeing at least 3 caution laps because of the choose rule and having to make another lap before they got the one to go and all this stuff. And I know it's only a quarter-mile racetrack, but that's a lot. So there was that issue. That being said, so again, listen to Denny Hamlin's podcast today, and his social media guy, I can't remember his name, but his co-host on the show, mentioned that every time somebody wrecked somebody else, the fans, the student section, he called it, would go nuts where he was. And they would cheer, and they would be flipping off the driver that spun them out and all this stuff.
Oh, my God.
And, James, that is the stuff. I get it. This is not a great representation of what NASCAR is, but once a year, it's fun. Something. This race is about the entertainment and not the race.
Yeah, and it's just, I think the problem is it's just too much time.
Well, here, let me fix it for you. Let me fix it for you. This is how we fix it. We take this 150-lap race, we make it a 250-lap race, and we count the caution laps. So you're still getting your race time, but every lap they run under caution is counting. So you're taking time off I know it's longer, but you're taking time off every time we run on caution. I don't think you can count caution laps at 150 laps on a quarter-mile racetrack. It would shorten the race too much when you have periods like that. We would have run the whole second half under caution. But I think if you almost double the race length or double the race length and then start counting cautions, you're okay. I think you're good then.
I think I have a bigger fix.
Okay.
Can we reduce the field by maybe 15 cars?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with that, except that, I mean, we already have the field stretched out like this, and we just lost both Roush Fenwick or RK, or whatever the hell.
RFK. Yeah.
RFK. 2 RFK cars for the second year in a row didn't make the main event. The problem with reducing the field size is that you're going to have fewer people that are going to travel over there.
Yep.
And you're not going to have the cars for the heat races, and now the heat races don't matter. And honestly, James, I think you'll feel the same way. The heat race is really where the show. Yes. I mean, as far as the racing aspect, the heat races were great.
And that's
but I will say that last year's race, I don't think there were enough cautions at the end of last year's race. Last year's race got too stretched out. It was like, okay, we're just watching cars go in circles again.
Yeah.
So I think we need. I don't disagree that this was a little extreme this year. I don't have a problem with it because it's once a year. It's also a non-points paying race, which we'll talk about that in a few minutes too. But I don't want to see it every week. But I think if we could come to some between last year and this year and find a way to make that what we see, I think that would help. But I wouldn't have a problem with reducing the field size in the grand scheme of things because, I mean, really, shoot, we ran, 8-9 cars in the heat races, and the races were just fine.
Yeah.
I think you run a 20-car field in this thing, and it'd be perfect.
I think that was one of my arguments, though. We still had the bumping, grinding, and banging in the heat races, but it wasn't. We weren't riddled by cautions because I think the field could breathe. Where when you have that many cars in such a tight spot, there's no room to breathe.
Well, Denny Hamlin said we need to put PJ1 down.
Well, there you put up on the high line and let him rip, eh?
Put PJ1 on the high line. And I disagree because I think the reason that this race is fun is because they have to run that bottom line. Because there's not
it's
two
the old
lines.
Bristol style where you got to root and gouge.
You put two lines here, you ruin the race again now because they just run side by side and nobody passes anybody.
But I can't recall a time in the history of NASCAR where cars were getting run over 2 and 3 cars back.
No.
You know what I mean? Guys were spinning out based on guys that weren't even hitting them.
There was just nowhere to go. I mean,
exactly. And I think
Denny talked about it too. Like even after the race, you couldn't be mad at anybody because you didn't know who to be mad at because the person who really spun you was 3 cars behind you.
Yes, exactly. Like Christopher Bell said, we're having fun.
Yeah,
this is great.
That was a great clip.
It was a great clip.
Oh man, I forgot about that clip. I should have used that as the intro.
Yeah, well, that's what we do every time we start the podcast. We're
right?
having fun. But I just think maybe 15 cars is too much, but 10. Reduce the field size down just a little bit. Give the guys just a little bit of room to do their thing because I thought the heat races were absolutely phenomenal. That second heat race with everybody. I mean, that was the who's who heat race of all time.
Yeah,
and you had a Cup champ that had to go to the LCQ because he couldn't get through that amazing field of cars. I would just like to see that type of racing a little bit more versus what we got as far as the final product. And I think as far as a television product, it was in pretty rough shape for a handful of reasons. The broadcast partner is not innocent in that as well. But I think we can do a little bit better. Or maybe we need to have some rules. Like if you caused, I don't know, Eric, if you cause 2 cautions, you're out or something like that.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, the way to solve this problem is to soften the front ends of these cars because if you knock the radiator out of it every time you pound somebody, that stops that. And it also reduces the field size because you got cars leaving the track. So maybe that's what we need to do. And Denny again said that, the hit still hurt. Bubba Wallace said that it was still terrible. And I don't think with what NASCAR did to change the cars, I don't think it did anything or would have done, even just looking at it from an engineering aspect, wouldn't do anything to soften impacts like what they had this weekend. It's more about hitting a wall at 40, 50, to 100 miles an hour where they're softening the rear end. But the rear end is designed to collapse now, whereas you don't want it to do that when you bump into somebody because your day would be done from bumping. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, 16 cautions is too many. I do agree with that. Maybe 8 to 10, probably a little bit better for this type of race.
Yeah.
But I would have no problem with reducing the field size. But again, as an exhibition race before, I mean, listen, James, NASCAR fans might not want to hear it, but a lot of people watch NASCAR for the wrecks, and the people who are casual fans who want to come watch a race are going to tune in because there's going to be a demolition derby. And guess what? They got it.
Yeah, I think they should just change the layout of the track to figure 8 and be done with it.
I'm good with that. Let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah, figure 8. Whatever. Yeah, whatever we got to do. Maybe, as Tony said about Talladega, you just turn around halfway through the race, go the other direction, and then at the end of the race, you just have half the field go one way, half the field go the other way.
That would be something else.
Problem solved, man.
Yeah.
We had some run-ins this weekend. And my question is, do they carry over? So a couple of them that I noted here, correct me if there's more. AJ Allmendinger and Chase Briscoe got into it in practice.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Joey Logano wrecked Kyle Busch. Ross Chastain spun Denny Hamlin again. Kevin Harvick tried to wreck Byron after the race, who then ran into Hamlin, and Hamlin was pissed off at Byron until Byron told him it was Harvick's fault. And Harvick was trying to hit Byron, but Harvick was really mad at Gregson because Gregson was the one that hit Byron hit Byron. Anyway, so does any of this carry over, or does everybody just go, hey man, it was a mess. We all had this situation. Let's just move on. I mean, I guess maybe the one that probably does carry over is Chastain and Hamlin because.
Well, that's never ending.
Yeah.
And Denny, I told somebody that Denny, what Denny has now is he's allowed this child's behavior to get out of hand. And now he's got a spoiled brat that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know how to behave.
You're not wrong.
And that's what Denny's dealing with.
He was also put in a box last year though, because if he had wrecked Chastain at the end of the season, he'd have been sitting.
That's right.
His driver ruined that for him.
Yeah, he did. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. He was stuck. The one that will carry over a little bit is Joey and Kyle.
I think that one does too. I thought it was funny they were in the booth together during the heat races.
Exactly. Well, Joey tried to apologize, and Kyle's not having that. No. So that's where that's going to come from. The whole field doesn't like Joey.
Yeah.
so Kyle's the most grumpy of the bunch. So. Yeah, that one's going to carry over. And then Ross and Denny's just never going to end.
Well, and I think we're going to see the old Kevin Harvick this year because Harvick's got nothing to lose.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Any wrong that he's done this year, he is just going to take it to him.
Yep.
Because why not?
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Yeah, exactly.
Give me fun.
Yeah, I mean, you'd wreck him. Who cares? You ain't got to pay any repercussions.
No. Nope.
So, yep.
There we go. Anything we missed on the Clash? Anything else we want to hit on before we move on to news and all that jazz, James?
It just looked like a lot of fun in person.
Yeah. I want to go to it. I if they do it next year, I might have to try and find a way to get out there because I really want to check it out. I want to experience the spectacle.
Lots of fun.
Just the idea of walking into that place. And I'll tell you, they mentioned it on Gluck's podcast that this place was exactly the same as last year. You would have never known that the track was torn up and put back down. They did a terrific job, and it looks from TV and I guess in person, it looks like a permanent racetrack, and just incredible they can do that. Very, very, very cool. I love this event. I hope it comes back next year. And yeah,
I'm good if we change it. But NASCAR did try to tell us that their tickets were on pace with last year, and that's not true. That's just not true because you could tell that place was jam packed last year, and it was not jam packed.
I think it was that jam packed last year. There were empty seats last year. The other problem you have with LA, LA people get there late. So
of course, yeah. That's the way it's always been, man. Yeah. Dude, I've been watching before I quit being a Lakers fan.
Right.
Thanks, LeBron. I used to watch a lot of Lakers basketball games, and those seats didn't get filled in until the second quarter, if you were lucky. So that's the way it goes.
All right, let's talk some news. And before we move completely from the Coliseum, let's talk that. Auto Club Speedway will not have a race date in 2024, possibly even 2025 due to its reconfiguration. It was floated this weekend that NASCAR is considering making the Coliseum race a points race to accommodate the Southern California market. I predicted last week that this race would move potentially overseas and be somewhere else. I'm going to withdraw that thought because they're going to race in Southern California somehow. They have this venue available to them. They're going to race here in some capacity. But James, what do you think about the Clash becoming a points-paying race instead?
I don't know. Can't we go to Irwindale or somewhere that's a little bit more established?
Irwindale isn't downtown LA, man. Irwindale is 20 minutes out of town.
I don't think we should. Listen, we already have a couple of Frankenstein monsters on the schedule.
But what's wrong with that? What's wrong with a couple Frankenstein monsters?
Not that this is not championship racing. Like this is something different. This is what you go to the county fair and see. You see the old boys out there beating and grinding in the mud. That's what this is. I don't know, man. It's not to the quality that I would like to see for an official NASCAR race. I'm fine with it as it is, but I don't know. I don't think there should be points awarded for that.
Back in the day, RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company was sponsoring the NASCAR Cup Series. And they decided they wanted to create an event of all-stars, of past winners, and put a big prize up for the winner of the race. And eventually it evolved to $1 million prize for the all-star race. And those days, $1 million was a lot of money to win in a NASCAR race. And nowadays it's not, James. These races don't pay that much. They don't pay more than your traditional race. I think the day of the exhibition NASCAR race is over. I do not think we need exhibition races. I think if we're going to put cars on a racetrack, that we pay points. This should be a points race. All-Star race should be a points race. Let's make them a regular race. I am totally fine with making this a points race. I do think that you have to be careful, and I don't know what the charters allow, but I don't think you can start 36. You can't start 36 cars here. We started, 27 this weekend?
Yeah.
That was too many, as you said.
Yeah.
It was more than last year. It was too many. You can't run 36 cars here. So if the charter system requires you to run 36 cars, then we can't do it here. That being said, I think you can pay points for the heat races. I think the last chance race could pay points. And
I think you
can make it work even to where they get enough TV time with the last chance race and the preliminaries that this race can still be run with 20 or 25 cars or whatever.
Yeah, and Eric, I would even say that you could even run a booby race has nothing to do with the guys who are racing for the race win.
Yeah.
But you could have like 20 through 40 run for 20th place and earn those points that way. I mean, if you're going to do it, just do it. And
that's what I was thinking. Instead of transferring out of the last chance race, you run the B feature and that's where you place for those races. And that's the preliminary to the big event.
Yeah. Or maybe you run 21 cars in that race and the winner gets to race for the race win. And the rest are, I don't know how you would do it, but again, I don't like the idea, but that's a way you could do it.
And I know there was a lot of debate with Gluck and Bianchi about live pit stops, but as it was mentioned there, as Bianchi said, we already don't do live pit stops on the dirt race. We also don't do live pit stops in a couple of the truck and Xfinity road course races that are not companion events.
Yep.
There is not a requirement for us to have live pit stops to make this work.
Right.
There's no reason to have to do that. I do think that you make it a points paying race. You bump up the laps. I'd love to see them bring something like the Wayland Modifieds in here and run those or whatever. I don't think they're Wayland anymore, but run the Modifieds as a preliminary event the night before.
Yep.
I mean, those would be cool here. I mean, they might be too wide for it, but I mean, I'm for it. I think, hell, James, I'm for running it the week before the Daytona 500, but I'm sure that they would restructure this and run it during California's weekend. But and I guess if I don't think the exhibition races are going away, so let's say we run this as a points paying race next year. Do we then run the Clash somewhere else? Do we do another stadium race? Can we do 2 stadium races in a year? Does that lose its luster?
Yeah,
I think it does.
Yeah, you got to start points with Daytona. But we
used to not.
Exactly. That's not just because it's what we've done for a long time doesn't mean it's the tradition.
Yep.
So I'm, if you have points before Daytona, I guess it's not the end of the world. So I don't know. I don't know, man. The whole thing's just stinky. I'm not a huge fan of it. I like it the way, I said let's not bring it back, but honestly, if NASCAR kept doing this, it's not the end of the world for me. So I just don't know. But man, points might be too much for me.
If we're racing, pay points. Done.
Golly, I don't know. I know these teams. You mentioned RFK earlier. They got to drive out to California.
Mm-hmm.
They get no-showed in the feature. Then they got to go back to Florida. Then back out to the West Coast right after that. So they are cross country in this bad boy 3 times.
Well, they already got to do it because NASCAR is making them do it for this race.
I know.
So might as well give them points.
I know. Well,
make it worth it.
I guess, but maybe we start the season in Florida and then we have a natural West Coast swing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we move this to the California slot, it does that. So.
I would love to see these cars race out at like Irwindale. That would be a lot.
Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see it too.
I know.
But I don't think Irwindale doesn't replace this. And I don't know what the status is at Irwindale because that place has been on the chopping block for years.
It's supposed to be a parking lot now, which thankfully it's not. So
when I was in California back in 2011, it was supposed to be its last year, and it keeps surviving.
It's hanging on. Yep.
So. NASCAR issued some rule changes last week. Of course, the day after we recorded. We'll kind of run through these kind of quick because they kind of all blend together. But start things off, NASCAR bans the Hail Melon. James, no longer able to make risky moves. Essentially, they kind of just put a blanket out there that, hey, we have this rule that says you can't, risk a dangerous situation for competition or whatever. And we're just going to put this under that rule and potentially anything else you guys do. I hate this rule, but it's also the right decision, I think. Don't you?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. We said, Eric, I think you and I both said this was going to come down this way. You can't have guys, especially if you got a track with a gate on it. You just can't do it.
No. And
it's too risky.
You were going to go to Martinsville this year and the guy in second place was going to try this. And probably the guy in third and maybe the guy in fourth. And pretty soon you have half the field riding the rim on the last corner of the last lap. Somebody's going to get hurt. You can't do it.
Yeah, and then if you've got multiple cars trying it at the same time, that's going to be a problem. It's just not it's not ethical to continue to let it happen. You know what I mean? It's
nope.
Yeah. But I'm good with this move. Justin Marks thinks there's a crime against NASCAR that their NASCAR is doing. I'm not going to do that.
Shut up, Justin.
I know.
I love you, man, but shut up.
I know. That's what I said. Thank you. I don't. Yeah. I mean, come on. Let it go.
Denny said it too. This is going to save the teams money because they're going to tear up race cars trying to do it. So
yeah, it was a fun moment. We all enjoyed it.
Yep.
Now let's move on.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. No more stage breaks on road courses. Woohoo!
Yeah, we've been yelling about that for years. Thank God.
Yep.
But Eric, I think you and I both agreed. How are the crew chiefs going to screw this up?
Oh, they'll screw it up. They'll find a way.
Yeah, they'll figure out a way to screw it up.
Yep.
They're still getting points.
Yeah.
I saw some people saying, good, now ban stage breaks from all the races.
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Is that a thing?
People have wanted to do it, but I don't want to do it.
I didn't recall stage breaks being such a problem, but this really opened up a wound for some
there's
people.
A bunch of people that hate them.
Okay, well.
But I think you get rid of the stage breaks at any other track. You get rid of what makes... So people never used to race for the halfway money, you know, back in the day. And they're not going to take risks racing for these points at the end of a stage either. Whereas right now they will because they know they're going to get caution after the fact. So they're going to make that pass that they might lose 10 spots if it doesn't work because they won't lose 10 spots. The caution comes out.
Right.
So yeah, I don't want to see this go away for the rest. Let's put it this way, James. If you're going to get rid of the stage breaks the rest of the races, then let's just kill the stage system, which I am totally against because I love the stages. Otherwise, but the road courses, it screwed the strategy up and it ruined the races. The only way to fix it on road courses was to make the races longer, and we can't make them longer.
I gotta give you some credit, and if you're not gonna toot your own horn, I'm gonna toot it.
Okay.
You said from the very first road course race we ran that this should not be a thing at road courses. So I want to give you should celebrate. You win. You were early on this, and you win, man.
I loved road courses, and it ruined them, man.
It did. Yep.
It ruined them.
Yep.
Corey LaJoie will be excited about this rule. No longer have to be in the top 30 to make the playoffs with a win. I think this is a good move. I've argued all along that the top 30 thing is stupid. I think it's stupid that you have to run every race. I think that, but we have the waiver system that kind of solves that issue. But shoot, I think if you can run half the races and make the playoffs, you should be able to do it. But anyway, I like this. I don't think you need to be in the top 30. That's silly. If Corey LaJoie would have won that race last year and not gotten the playoffs, that would have been a travesty.
Yeah. Just let guys, if they make it based on the win-loss rules, let them be in.
Yeah.
Just let them be in.
We've got the charter system already to guarantee they're in the field. Mm-hmm. Why can they not be allowed to run for the playoffs?
Well, as long as NASCAR has the waivers too. Yeah. Like NASCAR can say yeah, maybe you didn't run enough races or what. Know what I mean? Like I don't like judgment calls, but NASCAR can let them earn their way in if they want to.
Yep.
I mean, Kyle Busch missed. How many races did he miss, Eric? 10, 11?
Yeah, there's a lot.
And he made it to the top 30. That's why I've never really had a problem with it, because I thought if you're legit, you'll be over the top 30 no matter what. So I never really had a problem with it, but it all works itself out. I'm good with this rule too.
We'll call it the Corey LaJoie rule, because I think this came from that last year.
Probably, yeah.
The choose rule has now been implemented for super speedways and dirt races, James. I was calling for this from the very beginning, and I will continue on my soapbox and say we need to do it at road courses as well. And basically, if there's a choose rule, it should be in effect everywhere. But this is a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it's going to make super speedways interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe less chaotic.
How interesting would it make road courses, though? I mean, you think about Circuit of the Americas, James, going down into turn 1.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to want the inside, and then you got that one guy that's going to be able to jump 4 rows because he took the outside.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't understand why we don't do it at road courses.
I love the choose rule. It was great last night too, because you got guys trying to get up there and make something happen. And
it has. Let's put it this way: it has not hurt anything.
No, it's good. Choose rule's good. I have no problem with the choose rule. Let the choose rule stand.
Yep. And I think the fact that it worked at Atlanta is what made the super speedways work. The argument for dirt was that they couldn't paint the box on the track, so I don't know how they've solved that issue. But Denny Hamlin did point out with the super speedways, it's going to be interesting because those cars don't turn as quickly. So he says he predicts some people are going to hit the box because they're going to think they can swerve and they can't.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be interesting. I was going to say too, last night the choose rule got Eric Almirola in a bad way.
Yeah, it did.
Where he didn't know that it was choose time and he got stuck on the outside. I mean, that ended his day pretty much. I mean, that was crazy, but
yep.
So it's got its points.
The least surprising news of the season so far, Kevin Harvick will join the Fox booth in 2024. I probably don't have to say a whole lot about it. James, any thoughts on the fact that Harvick is doing what we all said he was going to do?
He's going to be great.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And it'll make that booth a lot better.
Yep. He's going to do some truck races and Xfinity races this year as well. So to prepare.
Good. Yeah.
Last news item, which we just added. I'm still kind of in the dark on this because I don't know a whole lot about it. I've got the JSK article pulled up right now, which includes Kyle Busch's statement. But apparently, in late January, during a vacation to Mexico, Kyle Busch was caught with a handgun leaving the country during a screening at the airport and went to jail for it.
Leaving Mexico to be, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know what to say. It's so dumb.
Yeah,
it's so dumb.
I don't know that there's really a whole lot to talk about here. I personally think this is over with. Bob Pockrass tweets that NASCAR policy is driver and team members must make the sanctioning body aware of any arrests within 72 hours or prior to the next event. If it is sooner, Busch did make NASCAR aware of detainment for having a gun in his bag in Mexico. He does not face any discipline from NASCAR. So if Bob says it's a done deal, I think it's a done deal, right?
Well, there's still the little issue that he was sentenced to 3.5 years in jail and is just walking around in the United States totally fine. Eric, you might have more thoughts on that than I can provide. I don't even know what that means.
I think as long as he doesn't go back to Mexico, he's probably all right.
But it's like the rest of his life, like he's.
Well, I mean, maybe I guess if he better have a 3.5 year notice if they're going to race in Mexico in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I guess so.
Can you imagine Kyle Busch doesn't make the championship because he doesn't get a waiver because he's not allowed to travel over the border to Mexico to run in the NASCAR race in Mexico?
Man, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. We just found out about this today. I think we'll hear more as we go.
I think, yeah.
I personally, I mean, I believe Kyle when he says it was an accident. It's probably a stupid mistake. Don't know what he's carrying a gun with him for to Mexico, but Mexico can be a dangerous place, or at least you think it's a dangerous place. Plus, he drives for RCR now, so he's probably got guns up the, probably got guns in the trunk of his car, race car.
I don't understand. I don't know. I don't understand why he had to do something so dumb.
Yeah, I don't know. That's because his last name is Bush.
Ah, man, every time, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Every time Kyle Busch is a changed man or things are different, things are better, something stupid comes along.
Well,
it's just like, I don't get it.
Everybody in Daytona is going to want to ask him about it, so it should go really well.
I don't understand it. I just don't understand why what's the purpose of the gun in Mexico? Like, what is the purpose of the gun?
Yeah.
That would be my first question. Why do you feel like you have to have it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm all for, listen, man, I'm a hunter. I'm all for people want to have their guns and use them for recreation. Have at it. But I don't understand, I don't know. I don't understand this.
Yeah. I don't know.
What's the gun doing for you?
I got nothing else to add. I probably wouldn't have talked about it if it wasn't news right now. So.
Kyle Busch got sentenced to 3.5 years in jail.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's a celebrity. That doesn't matter. They don't have to actually serve time, do they?
Probably not. He'll get it off the. They'll work out some sort of deal.
Yeah,
He'll be fine.
I'm sure.
But wouldn't that be something if he got deported to Mexico? You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go.
Any other news? Anything else break? Anybody else caught with a gun in Mexico during the off season?
Yeah, thank God, no.
All right. There you go. There's your news. And with that, it's time to introduce our special guest for the evening. James, who do we have with us tonight?
Well, so, Eric, we had a rule in place that if you won the fantasy league or finished second to one of us, you get to come on the show. And my friend Taylor Pashik, we've known, we've both liked NASCAR for a long time, and Taylor joined our league, a couple of years ago, and gave me a run for my money towards the end. It was a little bit stressful in the fantasy season, but as listeners of the show will know, and as Taylor will know as well, last year we had Ranger come on, but Taylor, he finished second, a very, very close second, but I told him, hey man, come on the podcast with us. You technically are the first loser, so that's how I want to introduce him. But my good buddy Taylor Pashik.
Terrible way to introduce him, I guess.
I know. Well, I want to make sure I get my jabs in early, Eric.
It's the perfect way to introduce me, honestly. Yeah,
that's right,
gentlemen. It's a pleasure to join you guys tonight. But yeah, Jim and I go back in high school, and yeah, we both went to Michigan International Speedway together. It was my first NASCAR race, and he got to see me go fanboy on Ryan Newman, and Joey Logano got to spin him around that race.
Nice.
And, yeah, it was a good time.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you remember that. It's been a while. Eric has
August day.
Also,
you know how that goes.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, Eric had those seats with me once before too. But yeah, Taylor went to a NASCAR race together, and only Ryan Newman fan I know, which was interesting during the SRX season as well. This past year, we had a little bit of a barb going on with that. But Eric, I was going to tell you too before we get too far into this. I don't know if you have nightmares, but me having one of my friends come on this show is a nightmare that I'm currently living in right now. So Taylor's got all the secrets. I hope he doesn't let too many of them out. But,
oh man,
is this a little too much stress in your life, Jim?
This is a lot of stress in my life. Yes, this has opened up a whole bunch of issues for me. So
well, now I'm debating which direction I want this to go because I want to keep it on topic and everything, but now I'm starting to think maybe we want to dig a little bit on this.
You can absolutely. It would be
dig away.
It would be an unfair fight, but so Taylor, one of the things I know I've talked to you about this before, but I thought maybe we could talk about it on the episode a little bit. Is where did you get your start as a NASCAR fan? I know everybody's heard Eric and I's story. If you've listened to the show before, you've heard our story a million times, but tell me a little bit about that. Tell us where that started for you.
That's a great question. So growing up, I would go camping every 4th of July with my parents and their friends. My mom worked at the Next Year Automotive in town in Buena Vista County. Buena Vista Township, and we'd go up north and we'd pick different places to camp, and we'd watch the Daytona Pepsi 400 or the July 4th race was always in Daytona, if I remember right, and we'd always pick a racer, and they'd have the kids join in, and we put a buck on everybody, and I picked Ryan Newman the one year, and he made it really interesting. I don't think he won that year, but I think that's where it all started for me, was just, playing along with my parents and seeing them get all riled up for Mark Martin, or my mom's favorite driver was Jimmy Johnson, and that was before he won his 7 championships, so it worked out for her, but
that was a good horse to pick early on.
She didn't want to be a Jeff Gordon fan because everybody was a Jeff Gordon fan, so she was going to take the sidekick, and then he ended up being just as good, if not better.
Well, it became the greatest driver of all time in those in that decade plus of domination that he had.
My mom was a Jimmy Johnson fan from his rookie year too, and she became a Jimmy Johnson fan because he was cute. So she said.
But so much that we got her into one of the figure 8 races in town in Essexville, and she painted her car all up Jimmy Johnson style and put a 48 on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she was able to do a couple races with it before it died off. So that was awesome.
That is pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Was she in like the what is it called, Eric? The bump and grinds, right?
Yeah.
Was she doing that kind of stuff?
She did the
or was it just
compact car races.
Oh,
so
okay.
She did like the one year they had like 2 or 3 heats to qualify for the final, and she got runner up in the first heat, and then I think she ended up like 4th or 5th.
Man.
And then the second time she did it, her car stalled out, and I think she ended up like 5th out of the 8th, and she didn't make the cut. So
that is
at
actually
that point, I think it was just
really cool.
Gonna be too much money to put in any more effort into it. So
I feel like now that you're talking about it, I kind of remember us chatting about that a little bit, but that is actually something that's really cool that I think, I don't know if for me and myself, I think my love for racing comes passed down from my dad, and it's funny that how many of us can say that their mom was the biggest racing fan. That's actually a really cool story.
Yeah, it is.
Makes sense though, because my mom was the one that worked with all the car heads, and
oh yeah,
I think my dad was more along for the ride than anything. But
yeah. So Taylor, one of the things that you and I have continued to have actually it's pretty funny discussion from time to time, but you have a passion for fantasy, and I'd actually say that after the year you had last year, you're actually not terrible. I'm giving you a compliment. So you're gonna have to take it. You're not terrible at.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're not terrible at fantasy racing. Like you have a league that you're in with us, but then you have another league. Is that what kind of keeps you involved with the sport? I feel like over the last couple of years you've continued to your fandom's kind of grown. Is that something that you think is keeping you in it?
Well, so I guess you're opening up the situation here. I wanted to thank you guys for helping me out with winning my money league last year, because you saved me from some pitfalls for some of my picks.
Oh, man. I don't know if you want to do that, man. But be careful. Be careful.
I'll give you guys for credits too as well, I guess.
But, I don't. If you start giving us credit for stuff like that, we're going to be we're going to get somebody in big time trouble.
Hold on a minute though, James. I'm starting to feel like maybe we should get a cut of the winnings, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, or like lunch or something.
Yeah.
I'm doing it next year. I mean, we can see how things go. It's the same format, and we'll talk a little more about that later. But Yeah, it's something that's definitely, now that Ryman Newman's kind of switched over to the SRX, I don't really have a favorite anymore. So it's kind of been, all right, my pick is the guy I go crazy about. And it's kind of leveled out my fan base to more than just, the guy. And I think that's made it more interesting for me to watch it as well. Because, just watching Ryan, if he spins out early or, like in the Daytona Rex, and I had not much to watch after that. And it's still a very fun race when you get, like, all the rivalries in the locker room afterwards, and, the shop and stuff, like them all fighting afterwards. It's yeah, like I should, have more than one guy, I guess. But I guess lately, Reddick's been fun to watch. I know we've had kind of a back and forth with that, but there's been plenty of guys where I'm just like, yeah, I'd love to see them win. And, so I guess my fandom's kind of changed in the most recent years, but I don't know if necessarily if I want to credit at the fantasy, but
yeah. Well, Taylor,
helps.
I'm glad you brought that up because Eric, I don't know if I've clued you in on this, but Taylor and I have a little bit of a rivalry, and I feel like I might be in a little bit of trouble because I've been William Byron is the future,
okay.
and Taylor's team Tyler Reddick,
Interesting.
and Tyler Reddick of all the drivers that are kind of the young and up and coming guys in the sport, he scares me the most, I think, because he's really good and he's got a really good opportunity now. But Taylor, is that kind of you brought him up? Is that kind of where your allegiance is kind of lying? Is kind of rooting for Tyler Reddick here? And what do you think he's got here going over to the 45?
Oh man, I was very worried, honestly, just because Kurt Busch has some big shoes to fill, but I think he can do it though, and I think we just saw a little glimpse of it in the Clash, and I hope it continues. But he had some really good runs in the road races too, and I think that's going to continue this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to be a thorn in Chase Elliott's side and gets a couple W's again this year. So I think he's going to consistently be one of those playoff guys that, if he puts it all together at the end of the season, look out. But he's got to get there first, So
yeah, absolutely.
The problem that Tyler Reddick has right now is the same problem that William Byron has, and that is he and William Byron now are racing in the Ty Gibbs era. And James, I know you and I have our thoughts on Ty Gibbs, but I really do think that he's the real deal. And I think he's going to stir some stuff up here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think so. We have a glut of young talent.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, I think Ty Gibbs is probably going to be a year away from starting to really get something going, but he's starting so young. He's so fast.
First half of the year, James. First half of the year, he's got to win.
You think so, eh?
Guaranteed.
All right.
Guaranteed.
Sounds good. Taylor, you want to chime in on that one? What do you think?
I like him, but I think, I agree with Jim on this one. I just don't see it. Even if he does get the opportunities where, he rides up front and it's, Atlanta or Daytona, or, I know he runs well at the road courses even too, but there's just too much talent up top.
He runs good everywhere.
Tracks that I just don't see it yet.
I got to tell you, Taylor, you had an opportunity to ambush me there, and you came over to my side. I am, I don't know if you know how this works, man. You got to play the character a little bit and come at me.
Oh, don't
That's
worry.
What Eric
I'm
does.
sure I'll play some devil's advocate, but I can't be a Ty Gibbs guy just yet.
Sure.
Well, I don't think he's going to be a fan favorite doing it, but I don't think he's going to be a fan favorite doing it. But then again, the guy who wins all the time usually isn't the fan favorite anyway, so he's going to play that role very well.
However, I think Ross Chastain gained a lot of fans last year.
That's true,
and I would say he did similar races where he was knocking guys around to get to it. There's just a different.
Yeah, but Ross Chastain comes from
but...
he's like the worker. He's like that guy who worked his way in there, and Ty Gibbs is the silver spoon kid. He's gonna be hated for that reason. He already is.
I think I will counter that though a little bit. I think that the narrative around Ty Gibbs has changed since the end of last year.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, right? But I don't know if NASCAR fans are going to be as quick to turn on him as they have been in the past. I think they might give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll
Personally,
see.
I still think I'm considering it his rookie season right now starting. I know he did more races and it's not going to I don't think he's going to qualify as a rookie this year, but
he will. It's him and Gregson are going to be the two rookie candidates this year. So he does get a chance to run for it. Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know who you like over those two, but Ty Gibbs is definitely in the best situation.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So that's
I mean,
that's tough.
Noah Gregson's going to be fun with Eric Jones, and I think they might do some damage. But I think it's going to take them some time to get up and running. And I really hope Eric Jones though puts win together sometime, and it'd be fun to bring one home for a Michigan driver. I don't see Brad putting it together for a while, but I don't know. We'll see.
Can you tell we brought another Michigander on the podcast?
Right.
We all like Eric Jones. We can't help ourselves. So Taylor, I know one of the things you wanted to throw out there this year, I gave you a little bit of a heads up on this part. You wanted to throw out your who you think your championship favorites are and who you think your 2023 champion is going to be. I'll kick it off with this. I don't know if you've put too much thought in it, so I might be putting you on the spot. Who you got kind of sneaking into the playoffs, and then what are you thinking for your Final Four and your champion? What do you got? Let's get it on the record so we have it forever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I could check back into it at the end of the season, see how wrong I am. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we do.
Exactly.
So,
this is forever. This is forever.
Yeah. So I looked at the 16 that made it last year, and there's still so many different drivers that I feel like are talented enough, with or without the hardware to get in. But I definitely think that Kevin Harvick's probably going to drop off. And I see there's no way Truex not going to not get a win again. So I see them swapping. And then, like I was kind of alluding to, I think Eric Jones is finally going to get that monkey off his back in these super speedways. And I think he's going to get one. So that's going to put him in. And I think Suarez is going to be one of the odd men out because, again, with the road course situation, I think taking away the cautions on the stage breaks is going to really favor the strong road course drivers like Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick. I think they're going to see a lot more success than the Trackhouse teams. So, I think Trackhouse is actually going to have a setback year. I think, they had a little bit of the sun shining on them last year, and I think that's going to kind of cloud up a little. So we'll see. I definitely could be wrong on that, but I like to see Eric Jones kind of put one together for Jimmy and Petty Rich, and those guys. And so the only other driver that would leave that I think squeezes in, I hate putting it like this because I was just dogging him, but Ty Gibbs, man, like.
So he did come back around.
He's gonna get lucky. That's how I'm putting it. He's gonna get lucky.
Oh man.
But I think he's gonna be one of the first ones out after the 16. But I'll put him in.
That's funny.
I think one thing we're going to see this year. Hold on, James. I think one of the things.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're going to see this year is I think that the gap from the top teams to the bottom teams is going to be much larger this year than what we saw last year. I think that the gap in the offseason has grown between, these guys have learned enough about these cars that the haves are going to be a lot better than the have-nots again. Maybe not to the level it was pre next gen car, but I think you're going to see a bigger gap this year. I don't think you're going to see the numbers of winners that we had last year, and I don't think we're going to see the surprise success stories, as you mentioned, Taylor, with like Trackhouse. I think Trackhouse is maybe going to be put a little bit more in their place this year. Not saying they're going to be a bottom of the barrel team, but I don't think they're going to be competing as much with the Hendricks and the top dogs in the series.
And Eric, just to piggyback off of that, one team we haven't mentioned in this, and we'll talk about this a lot more next week, and we'll have our season preview, but just kind of a teaser for where I'm leaning. I think Colleague Racing's coming for some of those playoff spots, and I'm not thinking it's just one. I think they're going to take two of them, because I think Justin Haley is on the cusp, and then you've got AJ Allmendinger. He's going to win a road course.
There's
race.
too many road course races to not give him a spot.
There's too many. Yeah, he's got a lot of, for lack of better terminology here, he's got a lot of bullets in the chamber with those road course races, and he's going to be tough. So we're going to have that coming at him as well. Taylor, so now who you got? Let's do prediction time. Who do you got in the Final Four? Who's your champion?
Okay, so I think Joey Logano is going to get in there again and muck everything up for everybody else, but I think Hamlin finally figures it out and gets in there. But otherwise, I still like Chase Elliott. I think he's going to get a lot of points in the regular season, and it's going to carry him kind of like what did last year. But in the fourth position, I've, chalked it up a few times, but, man, I don't know. I feel like Truex, I think he's going to surprise some people, and I think, that Joe Gibbs team is really going to put it together this year. So I'm going to go with Truex for the Final Four spot.
Yeah, I don't disagree with a lot of that. I think he showed last night as well. Like he's not fooling around now. I think he's got a little bit of and having a chip on your shoulder is a good thing. So I don't disagree with those picks at all. I think all those guys are good picks. Who you got? Who's your champ out of the four? What do you think? I like putting you on the spot. Let's challenge you a little bit.
They don't call me Green Eggs and Hamlin for nothing. So
there you go. There it is. Yeah. All right. It's Taylor. If you didn't know this, audio lasts forever. So
yeah, I know.
It's here. It's on
That's
the
why
record.
I'm trying to keep my giggling under control here.
Well, it lasts as long as I pay for the pro plan on SoundCloud and still have the file.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah. So I Taylor and I, we were texting. We have obviously we have a group chat with a lot of our buddies from way back in the day. God, a lot of us have been friends for dang near 20 years and more. And I said to the group, over or under 4.5 giggle fits for Taylor when he comes on. And Taylor, I got to give you credit. I had the over. You went under. You did good.
Well, maybe this will get me giggling, but I had $5 to say,
no.
Be my Volkswagen. So
there you go. He gets $5. Yeah,
you owe me $5.
Yeah, that's a yeah. So yeah, for the group, yes, we have. We still play video games, Eric. I don't know if you knew this, but every once in a while, and one of the things that we do is Tetris. Unfortunately, for some of us, but not for Taylor. He's actually one of the good ones. So, but yes, there it is. There's $5.
I'm a bit of a nerd.
Well, we all are. You don't make us any different from many of us, man. So, well, I think Taylor, that was all my questions. I think I'll let it go with that. But
before we let you go, I do want to know how Green Eggs and Hamlin came about. Where did that name come from?
I was just trying to look up some fun fantasy names for my money league, and I couldn't really come up with anything good. I was like trying to play with maybe like Danica Patrick at the time, and I was like, maybe there'd be something funny there. And then I was like, oh, Green Eggs and Ham. Lynn, perfect. It just, I don't know. Yeah, I was looking them up, and I don't know if I just found it online or there's not really a good story behind it, but once I found it, it clicked, and I was just like, oh, I gotta do that one.
I love it. It's my favorite
better
one.
than mine.
Ever since
It's my favorite one in the league. Yeah. So.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you definitely get best in show
yes.
for the name, because I can't think of anything ever. So for the longest time when I was in my early days of fantasy NASCAR, and this is still when I played fantasy football, I was always Team Jim, because I'm like, I have no creative juices when it comes to fantasy. So I know it's terrible, but it is what it is, man.
I think I may have did like Rocket Man, but again, my Ryan Newman fantasies, it's going with one of those.
Well, Taylor, as we get older, our guys continue to retire and leave us high and dry. So
yep.
Although another one of my buddies was watching the Clash and texted me and said, "Hey man, Tony Stewart's looking extra fat tonight." And I said, "Where have you been? It's been 20 years looking extra fat. Don't just leave him alone."
Surprised you didn't say he looked extra gray.
We're all looking extra gray, so ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, James got called Grandpa.
Gray hair's growing myself, but
I did get called Grandpa. Yeah, I did. I did get called Grandpa. So I can't say anything about that. But Taylor,
Eric,
it was
before
awesome.
I leave, do you have any opportunities for me to pick on your co-host? Any fodder you want to lay into?
No,
yeah,
I'll let him off the hook tonight. But I might have to get in touch with you and just maybe have some stuff in the back burner that I can throw out there from time to time. So I will say, it's funny because you said Jim when you started. So James, the story with James and I is he worked for me way back.
Still do.
Fresh out of school, came and got a job at the newspaper I was working at, and he applied as James Cush. So I called him James and never doubted it, never thought anything different. And then, we were friends at this point. He was not working there anymore, and I called him once and got his voicemail. And his voicemail goes, "Hey, it's Jim." And I'm like, holy crap. Does he go by Jim to everybody? I'm the only person calling him James, and he's been living this his entire time knowing me? Yeah, so.
Usually, and if any of our buddies listen to this, Taylor, you'll know that usually when I'm getting yelled at or accosted or something along those lines, it's usually Jim. There's a lot of "damn it, Jim." There's other things. That's probably the furthest I'll go with the cursing this evening. but there's a lot of that. So
normally when I greet him, it's usually Jim.
Yes, that's it.
There's no hello. There's no hey, buddy. No, it's Jim.
Nice.
Yep.
So.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's we all have to measure up to each other. I think that's part of that. So.
It's kind of like a Jerry or a Newman.
Right.
Seinfeld reference, I guess you could say. But
there you go. Nice work.
Works.
Well, Taylor, it was awesome having you come on the show. I look forward to the text messages I'm going to get when others hear this episode and give us a bunch of crap. So, but it was fun to have you on, and I do. I will say though, the NASCAR network can be very large and can be very small, but it's fun to have people that you relate to with the sport. And I'm glad we do have this to talk about and to get after it a little bit, get on each other's nerves or be a little bit competitive about it. So, it's been fun, but I appreciate you coming on and look forward to the season. We'll see where this goes.
Definitely. Thanks for listening.
Right,
and thanks
I'll
for
get you in the regular season then.
Thanks for joining.
That's right.
Thanks for joining the league. Thanks for participating in the league, keeping it going since James and I love it so much.
Oh my God. Yeah, I do.
I
got to check that, by the way.
Yeah.
so much. But
cool. Well, thanks for being on.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks you.
All right, James, that is our show for the week. We'll be back next week. We're going to preview the Daytona 500. Can't believe it's Daytona 500 time already. That's crazy. But until then, where can people find you on social media, James?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/TheSuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find old episodes of the podcast, show notes, past race coverage, photos, much, much more there. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Wherever you found us today, we hope you subscribe and continue to listen. I hope when you find us today, you find us with a new cover art, because I think I figured out the bug that is keeping the cover art from updating in iTunes. But if not, we might still be under the old cover art. I don't know.
You're going to have to tell me how to do this, because I'm having the same problem with my work podcast. So I'm going to talk to you offline.
I believe the file was too large, but we'll find out tonight and see if it goes. If it doesn't, then I still have work to do. Otherwise, we have a really cool cover art. You guys have seen it on Twitter. It's been on Facebook, but for some reason it's not our cover art. So
yep.
But anyway, we'll be back next week to preview the Daytona 500, preview the 2023 season, and get ready to go racing.